Pinky, stop polishing the globe like it's going to reveal the secret location of sanity. It won't. If sanity existed at scale, humans wouldn't keep manufacturing brand new people just to trap them in the same ideological hamster wheel and then brag about it like they invented electricity. There's this smug, dead-eyed little pride some parents wear when they say, "My kids believe what I believe." They say it the way a landlord says, "My tenants pay on time," or a cult leader says, "My followers don't ask questions." They don't mean my children developed values through reflection. They mean my children successfully absorbed the script. They mean my household remains a unified territory. They mean I have secured the border. And the reason that line makes my skin crawl, Pinky, is because it's not about the kids at all. It's about the parents. It's about ego preservation. It's about control. It's about the desperate need to turn uncertainty into obedience and call it love so they can sleep at night without hearing the faint, irritating hiss of doubt. What if I'm wrong? What if I wasted my life? What if my beliefs are just inherited furniture I never bothered to inspect? That is what's actually happening under the cute family photo and the family values bumper sticker. A lot of parents are not raising a person. They're raising a loyal citizen, a subject, a little foot soldier for the household regime. Not because they're all cartoon villains twirling mustaches in the nursery, but because the human animal is pathologically addicted to certainty and status, and children are the easiest, most socially accepted way to extend your identity into the future without doing the hard work of earning meaning. Parenthood, in the hands of someone emotionally healthy, is supposed to be a slow, deliberate surrender of power. You start with a tiny, helpless creature that depends on you for everything. And as they grow, you gradually hand them their own mind, their own agency, their own life. The goal is not to create a clone. The goal is to create an adult who can stand upright without your hand on their throat. But the little kingdom parent cannot do that. They can't surrender. They can't tolerate the idea that their child might become a separate person with separate conclusions. Not because the kid's conclusions are dangerous necessarily, but because separation feels like betrayal to someone who confused authority with truth. Their power becomes their proof. Their dominance becomes their moral credential. So the child's independence is interpreted as treason. And when you're living inside a regime, treason is not a disagreement. It's an existential threat. Watch how these parents talk. The vocabulary gives them away. Respect means obedience. Gratitude means submission. Discipline means control. Concern means surveillance. Family means loyalty oath. Love means compliance with the approved narrative. They wrap it in warm words, but the structure underneath is always the same. The parent is sovereign, the child is territory, and the household ideology is the Constitution carved into stone tablets that conveniently match whatever the parents already wanted to do. That's why ideology is so useful to them. Ideology isn't just a set of beliefs, it's an enforcement mechanism. It provides a script, a hierarchy, a moral alibi, and a ready-made enemy. It tells you who's good and who's bad, who belongs and who should be shunned, what questions are allowed and what questions are sinful, disrespectful, ungrateful, brainwashed, or just a phase. Ideology is control with a halo. It lets parents look like moral guardians while they do what they were going to do anyway, secure compliance and minimize uncertainty. Religious ideology, especially the high-control varieties, is the parent regime's favorite toy because it comes with the nuclear weapons pre-installed. Eternal punishment, cosmic judgment, spiritual contamination, community exile. It's not just agree with us, it's disagree and you're damned and we will call our cruelty love because we're saving you. What a convenient arrangement. I'm not punishing you, the universe is. The parent becomes an intermediary for divine authority, which is the most efficient way to avoid accountability for emotional coercion. And then they brag. They brag like they accomplished something noble. My children share my faith. My children share my values. My children vote the way we vote. As if the mind of a child is a safe deposit box and the parent's job is to lock it with their preferred combination. They call it passing down tradition. They call it teaching. They call it raising them right. But what they mean in plain language is, I installed my worldview early enough that it feels like theirs. That is the dirty trick, Pinky. Install it early. Install it before they develop cognitive immune systems. Install it while they still equate love with approval and survival with belonging. Install it while the nervous system is plastic and the child is desperate for safety. Then, when they repeat it back to you, you get to call it their choice. Humans do this constantly. They confuse conditioning with consent because admitting the truth would ruin the story. And humans will do almost anything to preserve the story. The story is their oxygen. A lot of these parents never had a single original thought in their lives about the ideology they worship. It was handed to them like a family recipe, and they absorbed it because the cost of questioning was too high. Social rejection, family conflict, emotional discomfort, the terrifying realization that maybe the adults in the room were not wise, just loud. The ideology was there before they were, and they moved into it like a pre-furnished apartment. They never examined the furniture. They never asked who built it, what it's made of, and why it squeaks when you lean on it. But rather than face the fragility of that inheritance, they double down. They reproduce the ideology through reproduction. They treat children as an insurance policy against the humiliation of uncertainty. Because if your kid agrees with you, you can pretend your beliefs are not contingent on geography, class, era, trauma, or social reinforcement. If your kid agrees with you, you can pretend you arrived at truth rather than being funneled into it. And that's why their pride is so revealing. It's not pride in the child's flourishing. It's pride in narrative continuity. It's pride in control. It's pride in the kingdom's stability. A kingdom, Pinky. That's what it is. A small regime with a private border, a private law, a private moral code, and a leader who does not want to be questioned. The child is not a new person entering the world. The child is a new citizen entering the state. The child exists to carry the flag, to extend the legacy, to validate the ruler, to preserve the culture, to reassure the parents that their worldview will not die with them. That is the legacy fantasy, immortality cosplay through replication, and it is deeply, embarrassingly human. Humans are terrified of being irrelevant. They're terrified of being wrong. They're terrified of death. They're terrified that their pain meant nothing. So they build little fortresses called families and then treat the child's mind like the castle walls. Their beliefs must be the mortar. Their identity must be the banner. Their authority must be the law. So when the child begins to separate, the parent panics. Not because separation is inherently bad, but because separation threatens the parent's emotional scaffolding. The child's independence reveals a simple fact. The parent is not a god. The parent is a fallible animal with preferences and history and unexamined assumptions. The child's disagreement is a mirror held up to the parent's fragility, and fragile rulers always punish mirrors. This is where the cruelty becomes obvious, and it's usually subtle enough that outsiders miss it. It's not always screaming or hitting. It's often more sophisticated, more socially respectable. It's guilt. It's disappointment as a weapon. It's silent treatment dressed up as I'm just hurt. It's affection withdrawal. It's concern that is actually contempt. It's praying for you used as a knife. It's after all we've done for you, like the child is a debtor and the parent is the bank. Conditional love is the currency of the kingdom. Agree, and you are safe. Disagree, and you are cold. And the child learns this at a level deeper than language. They learn it in the body. The body starts anticipating punishment. The body starts editing thoughts before they become words. The body starts equating honesty with danger. That's the point. You don't just want compliance, you want self-policing. You want the kid to become their own guard tower. You want them to internalize the regime so thoroughly that the regime doesn't have to shout anymore. This is why so many adults raised in these environments have trouble making basic decisions without guilt, because their preferences were treated as insolence. Their curiosity was treated as disloyalty. Their boundaries were treated as disrespect. Their autonomy was treated as selfishness. They were trained to perform belonging by erasing themselves. And then the parent calls it respect. Respect, Pinky. What a flexible word. In many families, respect means mutual dignity. In the kingdom family, respect means obedience to hierarchy. The parent demands respect like a dictator demands loyalty and then acts wounded when the child refuses to kneel. I'm your mother. I'm your father! As if being older automatically makes you correct. As if authority is a substitute for reasoning. As if power is proof. It's a laughably lazy moral system, but it's effective because children are dependent, and dependence is not consent. Dependence is leverage. Children can't leave. Children can't vote. Children can't renegotiate terms. Children don't have the tools to defend their minds. So if you want a captive audience, congratulations. You can just have a baby and call it a blessing. Now, the pronatalist part of this is important because pronatalism gives the whole enterprise a sacred varnish. Society claps for parents. Society calls them heroes for doing what mammals do by accident. Society treats reproduction as a moral achievement, so the parent regime gets external validation on top of internal control. They're not just running a kingdom, they're being applauded for it. That applause encourages a particular kind of narcissism. The child is trophy. The child is proof. The child is public relations. You've seen it. My kid is an honor student. My kid is a champion. My kid is so polite. My kid shares our faith. These statements can be innocent, sure, but in the kingdom family they carry a specific undertone. I did this, I produced this reflects on me, this proves I'm good. The child becomes the parent's resume line. The child is a brand extension. The child's beliefs become the brand's messaging. The child's conformity becomes the brand's stability. And the parent becomes a brand manager. Identity is not something the child discovers. It's something the household assigns, like a uniform. And because humans are social primates, the tribe reinforces this. Grandma wants the grandkid baptized. The church wants the next generation. The political movement wants more voters. The culture wants continuity. So the parent feels righteous for doing what is, at its core, a selfish psychological transaction. I will create a person to carry my identity forward so I don't have to feel small. And then, Pinky, comes the part that makes my whiskers twitch. When the child leaves. When the child leaves the ideology, the parent treats it like a personal attack. Not like a difference of opinion. Not like normal differentiation. They treat it like betrayal. Like the child is murdering the parent's legacy. You've changed. You're not who you used to be. Who put these ideas in your head? You've been brainwashed. You're hurting us. Notice what's missing. Curiosity. Respect for the child's reasoning. Interest in truth. It's all about the parent's feelings because the child was never a person to them. The child was a citizen who just committed treason. And the real horror of that dynamic is that it leaves the child with a brutal dilemma. Be authentic and lose belonging, or perform belonging and lose yourself. For a social animal, that's not a choice. That's torture with two flavors. This is why, when people leave high control groups, it's not just changing your mind, it's rebuilding your entire psychological infrastructure. People mention Westboro as an example, and it's perfect because it shows how expensive escape is. Leaving that kind of ideology isn't a disagreement. It's an evacuation. You lose community. You lose family. You lose the language you use to interpret reality. You lose the sense of being good in the old moral system. You gain freedom, yes, but you also gain the grief of realizing your childhood was spent inside an emotional prison with nice decorations. And what do you have to do then? You have to rebuild your epistemology. You have to learn how to think without permission. You have to learn that fear is not a compass. You have to learn that you can disagree and still be worthy of love. You have to learn that shame is not evidence. You have to build a new self out of fragments while the old kingdom screams that you are ungrateful and wicked. So when parents brag, "My kids believe what I believe," I don't hear wholesome family bonding. I hear the quiet threat behind it. My kids have not yet escaped. That's the thing, Pinky. The brag is about containment. It's about stability. It's about the regime still holding. Now, if you're wondering why these parents care so much about ideological replication, the answer is painfully simple. Because ideology is their anti-anxiety medication. It gives them certainty, status, and belonging. If their kid diverges, it threatens all three. Certainty: if my child can see through this, maybe it was never as solid as I thought. Status: if my child deviates, the tribe might judge me. Belonging: if my child leaves, the household narrative fractures, and I have to face the loneliness of being an individual rather than a member of a righteous in-group. So they push harder, they tighten control, they moralize dissent, they punish curiosity, they call it protecting the child, when what they're protecting is themselves, and then they rationalize it with the most nauseating phrase in the language: I just want what's best for you. What's best for you in this context means what keeps the kingdom stable. It's also why no single ideology will ever take over the world, despite their fantasies. Humans are too diverse, too messy, too traumatized, too curious, too contrary, too bound by circumstances, too influenced by experience. Even if you manage to reproduce a belief system within one family, you're still fighting the fact that reality exists, and reality is a better debater than most parents. Life happens. People meet new people. They read books. They fall in love. They leave town. They get access to information their parents couldn't control. And sometimes they simply wake up one day and realize the script they've been living in doesn't fit. Which is why the Kingdom Parents Project is always ultimately doomed. They can delay divergence, but they can't prevent it universally. They can produce conformity in the short term, but they can't guarantee it in the long term. And because they can't guarantee it, they obsess over it. They hover, they control, they monitor, they shame, they intensify indoctrination. They treat the child's mind like a garden they must weed constantly, except the weeds are just thoughts the ruler didn't approve. And this produces the bitter irony. The more a parent tries to manufacture loyalty, the less genuine the relationship becomes. You can't force love. You can force compliance. You can't force belief. You can force performance. But belief that survives only because the exit costs are too high is not belief. It's captivity. So what does a non-kingdom parent look like? You can spot them because they are not terrified of their child's mind. They don't treat questions like grenades. They don't treat disagreement like disrespect. They don't treat boundaries like betrayal. They can say, I might be wrong, without collapsing into rage or humiliation. They can say, tell me why you think that, without preparing a punishment. They can handle the fact that their child is separate, because they didn't create the child as a mirror in the first place. They understand something that should be obvious, but apparently isn't. A child is not a legacy delivery system. A child is not an ideological heir. A child is not a soldier. A child is a future adult. And your job is to help them become competent, thoughtful, and emotionally safe enough to navigate reality without clinging to lies for comfort. But the kingdom parent doesn't want that. Reality is messy. Reality has trade-offs. Reality has uncertainty. Reality doesn't hand out moral gold stars. The kingdom parent wants the clean simplicity of a pre-approved script. They want their child to stand as evidence that their way of seeing the world is righteous and superior. They want the child to be an extension of the self, because a separate self would be a reminder that the parent is not the center of the universe. And when someone tells you proudly that their child shares their ideology, what they're often saying is, I didn't have to face the terror of being challenged by the person I created. Because that's the true test of love. Whether you can keep loving someone when they stop serving your emotional needs. Whether you can keep loving someone when they stop agreeing with you. Whether you can keep loving someone when they become inconveniently real. A lot of these parents cannot. They confuse relationship with rule. They confuse love with loyalty. They confuse guidance with governance. They confuse care with control. And because society gives parents moral immunity, because family is treated as sacred regardless of what happens behind closed doors, these dynamics persist. They persist generation after generation. Children raised as citizens become parents who want citizens. The kingdom reproduces itself until someone leaves, until someone says, no, I'm not your subject. I'm not your legacy. I'm not your proof. I'm not your trophy. I'm a person. And that moment is always treated as tragedy by the kingdom. They mourn, they rage, they gossip, they pray, they blame outsiders, they blame the internet, they blame friends, they blame partners, they blame modern culture. They blame anything except the obvious. You tried to raise a person like property, and now you're shocked they want to be free. The cruelest part, Pinky, is that these parents often truly believe they're doing something noble. They genuinely think control is care. They genuinely think indoctrination is love. They genuinely think producing ideological clones is keeping the child safe. That's how deep the delusion goes. Humans can harm others with the cleanest conscience imaginable if they can call it virtue. So, yes, people like this are, at minimum, psychologically compromised. They're afraid. They're insecure. They're addicted to certainty. They're desperate for legacy. They're enthralled by authority. They're incapable of tolerating ambiguity. They need their child to agree, because without agreement, they have to confront the fact that their ideology might be just a story they inherited and not a truth they earned. And that's the entire rotten engine behind it. Not love for the child, but fear for the self. Now, Pinky, stop hugging the globe. We're not taking over the world tonight. We're just pointing out again that millions of people treat reproduction like a morally sanctioned method of building a private dictatorship, and then they're confused when the citizens revolt, which, frankly, is the most human thing imaginable.